Good evening. We are live on the Believe in Monsters podcast. Another week that we're gathering together to get talking about some Chicago Bears. We want to join you guys, welcome you guys in, and ask you guys to jump in and join us. You can jump in and join us on the chats on YouTube, on Twitter, anywhere, and we'll be happy to welcome you into the program. I'm Joe Gaither with my friends Lucas Berry and Chris Krogman. We are the Believe in Monsters podcast. Go follow us on the Twitter machine at BIM_pod. My friends Lucas and Chris are at lberry_40 and at ShyBears1985. And I'm at Joe Gaither 6. And now that we've got all that business out of the way, we got a big show on tap tonight on the Believe in Monsters podcast. We want to talk about the opening of OTAs. Today, the Bears met and got OTAs started. We heard from Justin Fields from the media. We heard from Matt Eberflus. The Flus is loose today in front of the media. So we'll get into some of their discussions as well. Additionally, you guys may have been watching or seeing or reading this a great article about Justin Fields, or great might be a subject for debate. An article about Justin Fields and how the Bears should be handling him. We'll get into that and more. And I know we've got a big announcement tonight, so I'm excited for the show this evening. Before we get all into it, how are we doing tonight, guys? Luke, I think you should make the announcement. You've been the business leader on the podcast. If I can't kind of make that executive decision, but Luke, how you doing tonight, man?
Dude, I'm great. You're looking good over there. Got the fresh hairdo. Better than me and Krogman's hairdo, which is
had to get the haircut before Easter.
There you go. Had to get him all covered. And he's wearing stripes today.
Do I need to go change into my Trubisky shirt?
No.
No.
You got the orange on. You're good. You're good, bud.
But you will be changing into a Pickens jersey after the draft here.
George!
Lucas made up this bet on his own, and he may have been just talking to himself, but I have no clue where this came from, but it's complete fabrication in Lucas Berry's mind. Either one of us wearing a pretend jersey of Lucas's liking, but Lucas, continue with how you're doing tonight, man. You're looking pretty good yourself. Your beard's all trimmed up. Your eyebrows are matching your beard length, so that's pretty solid.
You got to keep it all symmetrical. You know what I'm saying?
For real.
Chris, I think you're going to be the one to break the news here. You're the last one up. So, how you doing? What's the news?
What is the news? Well, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking, friends. The Believe in Monsters podcast will soon be on the Believe Network with the rest of the Believe family. So we will be joining everybody over there. All put our names on paper as wanting to be part of an awesome podcast network that we have had guests on from in the past season, past few months. So Joe DeLeon is kind of one of the main guys over there, got us linked up and on board. So we are excited to be part of the network. I don't think this is officially the first episode, but it will be coming soon. So just wanted to let everybody know we're super excited. Can't wait to have more guests on. Can't wait to be guests on everybody else's podcast on the Believe Network. As you know, we were part of the network previously, and it's a lot of fun being part of a group of talented individuals that likes to have support each other and be a group effort. So we're pumped. Joe, how you feeling about it?
I'm excited. I can't wait to have more big guests on, have a little more credibility. We now can say we're the Believe in Monsters podcast on the Believe Network. So I'm excited to be a part of a crew, people we can kind of chop it up with and maybe get some advice from. Maybe I can get some real coaching on how to be a host, and we'll have a much better podcast because we're affiliated with the Believe Network. I'm really excited about it.
I think you are going to be the one giving the classes, Professor Gaither.
No. You're the one that's on the radio, dude. Like,
I just make that up as I go along, Luke. That's all I do.
On the radio.
Yeah, on the radio. Not here on the Believe
Alabama. In Alabama. No, I definitely your voice can be heard on. Yeah, give them the plug, Joe. What awesome station do you
Tide FM.
Can we hear
100.9 FM? You can download
100.9 Tide Pod Cast.
FM.
No, wait.
Make
No,
sure you eat the Tide Pods. That's all our listeners
eat
are
the
eating.
Tide Pods, sponsored by Tide Pod Eating.
Tide
Tide Pod
Pods.
edibles.
Some of our
where
listeners certainly are consuming the Tide Pods. I'll definitely let you know. Not the Believe in Monsters listeners, though. We got some smart listeners right here because probably a little more higher class franchise. No disrespect to the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Well, you have to have the internet to get our podcast.
Exactly.
And, the FM Tide podcast comes through just on any radio wavelength down there in Alabama.
No
So
doubt.
a lot of fun. Joe, what do you want to tackle first, man? We got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
We got some things to talk about.
You were talking about interviews earlier. You
Bears
said Justin
related.
Fields.
I was
Justin
the
Fields
last
had
one jumping into the podcast tonight because I was finishing up watching Justin Fields and Matt Eberflus. Justin Fields spent about 12 minutes in front of the media, and the main takeaways were, he's putting his left foot forward now instead of his right foot forward in the shotgun. So, woohoo, big changes there. But other than that, Justin Fields is like already a professional behind the mic. He was basically gave you a bunch of quarterback nothing answers. I'm excited to be here, excited to get the offense put in, this sort of thing. And he was asked about last year. Do you think that you were set up for success last year? And his answer was, I don't know, but it doesn't matter now. So, which I love. But he kind of talked about Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney coming down to Atlanta to run some routes with him. And he talked about his boy Chris Olave and that he has been looking at the wide receiver class. So I think he's looking forward to seeing what other offensive additions come in for the Bears after the draft, obviously. So Justin, I mean, it was vanilla, but it was great to hear the leader of the Bears. He sounded confident. He expressed feeling good about it going into his second year and expressed feeling comfortable so far with what he's got going on with Getsy. But we remember, all this is so new and so early. It's the first day of OTAs. The offense and defense didn't even practice against one another. It was all install. Eberflus said that everybody was separate on today's practice. So it was cool to see Justin Fields. I think it was more beneficial for me to listen to Eberflus. But guys, did you guys get to check out Justin Fields today in front of the media?
No.
That's okay.
Unfortunately, I did not.
You didn't miss anything, really.
I did hear that he had a little interview session, but honestly, man, press conferences are fluff. It's more fodder for fans and whatnot.
100%.
And I kind of talked about this over the last few podcasts that I'm a different kind of fan nowadays. I don't get caught. I try not to get caught up in a lot of the fodder, the BS on Twitter, the internet GMing, the Madden GMing, the Madden coaching, and everything like that. So it's good to hear that. Honestly, that shotgun thing makes. His right foot was forward. That seems completely ass backwards for a right-handed.
This year in training camp, and I believe Getsy explained to him that the switch, I think he said the left foot is forward now, that the switch is due to timing with the receiver's routes. You take the steps to the quarterback drop, everything works better. So
why the hell would your right foot? Why would your right foot be forward as a right-handed quarterback? You got your right foot forward. You snap the ball. It's an extra step you got to take.
Go ask Matt Nagy.
Backwards.
That's exactly why Getsy's fixing it.
Well,
ask Matt Nagy and the clowns from last year.
Luke Getsy, like I said, already paying dividends. Already, would be a big leap forward. I know everybody out there isn't in our group chat, but this guy called Luke Getsy before anybody.
He did.
But that's no big deal. I actually wanted the guy that got the Denver job, and now I can't remember his name because we have Luke Getsy.
Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett.
See, he's a hack. Hackett. So, the one thing I did see, Joe, today, and maybe you can expand on this with the Eberflus press conference, is he's been attending a lot of offensive meetings. Can you speak to that and tell us a little bit about what you heard and what that means for the Chicago Bears?
Absolutely. The Flus was, I thought he was really.
The Flus was loose.
Absolutely. I think he was really open with the media today. He said that he was, excited about his time. This is his first OTAs as a head coach. He was saying that he spent some time in every position group meeting, trying to get to know the guys, trying to make them feel comfortable, make them feel that he's invested in the offense just as well as the defense. They went on to ask him about how he's got the locker room situated. Are you going to have the offense and defense on opposite sides? You're going to intermingle like we've seen the Bears do in the past. And he said, we really haven't gotten to there yet because we don't have enough enough guys on the roster. We only have 50 guys on the roster. But at the end of the day, he said, I want the media and the team to not be offense, defense, special teams. We want to be the Chicago Bears. So I really like the unity there. And you got to think about and compare it to previous regimes. Was the head guy ever in a defensive meeting? I don't know. I can't say, and I wouldn't bet that he was. But Matt Eberflus kind of getting into the offensive meetings, getting to know everybody, and he's put his fingerprints on this team. He additionally said that as a part of that unity, I guess, vision, the offensive line and the defensive line will both be exercising and working out together. They're going to lift weights together, throw around weight, because that's really where the meat of the team is. And I think that we're going to see a unified team at least for a year. I know a lot of this stuff sounds very much, in my opinion, like Matt Nagy's first year. Everybody love everybody kind of concepts, but that's what you get with a first-year coach. So let's ride the wave of positivity and see how the rest of OTAs work out. Luke, I want to get you to touch on this. One thing that they talked about on OTAs, and I know you hit the retweet button, and you can see that on the BIM_pod. We moved Tevin Jenkins to the right-hand side today and Larry Borum to the left-hand side today. Eberflus did say that everything was fluid up until snap one of week one. But what do you make of that to get started with OTAs?
Well, I think, back to when we had, Michael Gus on the podcast, we were talking about one of the first things he mentioned was, where is Tevin Jenkins most comfortable, right? So the first thing this tells me is that during these meetings, Tevin Jenkins said, hey, I feel better at the right side. This is where I want to be. And I'm sure they've had these conversations with him, and I'm sure Poles has done his evaluation like, hey, maybe this guy could be an elite right tackle for us. Maybe he's not a left tackle because, let's face it, Ryan Pace kind of just threw him in there to say, oh, yeah, we have a franchise left tackle and, kind of show the boat there. We traded up. We got a franchise left tackle. But let's be real. If he's better suited at right tackle, let him play right tackle, and you can fill in that void. No big deal. The kind of blindside thing is a very weird topic as well. I mean, you need strong tackles, right side, left side, whatever. You need to be able to do everything both ways in today's NFL. It doesn't matter. So, that immediately tells me he's probably more comfortable there. And I would bet that we see him at right tackle to start the season. And that's something we've talked about throughout this offseason is that, hey, Tevin Jenkins probably should be playing right tackle. So I'm happy to see that change. We'll see if it sticks. I think it will. But again, that brings the question, do they believe in Borum as a starting left tackle? Is he more of a swing tackle? Do we see them draft a left tackle this year? Maybe. For sure, maybe. Chris, what do you think of this?
Maybe, for sure, maybe. Well, that could not be clearer than mud, Lucas. Because I don't know what they're going to do at left tackle. Hopefully, Borum works out over there. I don't not having.
I guess my question is
the roster.
Do you think they believe in Borum as a left tackle, or do you think he's just the body they're putting in there for now, and they have bigger plans, and Borum will kind of be like a swing guy?
I think it's April 19th, and they have no fucking clue, and we'll find out soon enough.
That's fair.
I mean, trust is such a deep word with such minimal exposure to the NFL so far for any of these guys on the offensive line, whether it be Borum or Jenkins. So I can't say one way or the other. The only guy you can say anything about is Cody Whitehair. Whether or not you trust him, I trust him in his own scheme. I think he did well in that scheme, and I think he'll do fine. And I'm, the only one on the podcast that is okay with Cody Whitehair, and that's fine, no big deal. Lucas Patrick pretty much locked in at center from what it seems like. If Borum and Jenkins are your tackles, and you still got to find a right guard. Obviously, they signed Dozier or whatever, Bulldozer from Minnesota, who gets bulldozed on a regular basis. Maybe they believe in Latavius Simmons to step in and be right guard.
What about Willie Wright? Willie Wright, that was the guy's name I couldn't remember last week. He's on. I don't even know who this fucking guy is.
Double dub, dude. Will Wright, man. You don't know who William Wright is?
No, dude. Where'd he go to college?
Walter Wright. Triple dub.
Walter Wright. Come on.
No freaking clue. I have no idea who this guy is.
This dude making fucking meth in the basement?
He could be. You don't know.
Walter Wright.
Well, let me just talk conceptually for you guys. Like, when you think about the last regime we had, you're a left tackle. We're going to make you left tackle. You're the left tackle. I think it's such a refreshing change to say, hey, you don't like left tackle, you're more comfortable at right tackle. We want to put these guys in positions to succeed, not putting pieces into places just because you got to do it.
Yeah, don't.
100%. No doubt about it. And I was unaware of the conversation with Jenkins where he did say he felt more comfortable at right tackle.
He didn't say that. I'm just assuming, but I was just referring back when we talked to Michael Gus, that was one of the first things he said was like, they're going to have to ask Tevin where he's more comfortable at. And that'll probably spark the conversation of, are you playing right tackle or left tackle this year? So I'm just saying this is an early indication that he's probably most likely expressed that he feels more comfortable there.
And what do you think Larry Borum has expressed? Like Larry Borum seems like a no F's given kind of guy. Like I don't.
Yeah, I feel like he'll just
throw me out there. You know.
Exactly.
Which I thought he did okay. He played some left tackle in the preseason, right? And he might have got some snaps in the regular season at left tackle.
He played fine. He played fine wherever they moved him.
Peters. So yeah, give him that experience that he got from year one. Give him a new coaching staff that'll hopefully be developmental. Can't remember Chris Moore. What's his name? Chris Morgan, the new offensive line coach. Chris Morgan, yeah. So hopefully he can work with them. Worked with some guys in Pittsburgh who I think he got more out of the guys in Pittsburgh than had gotten before, considering the talent level they had there. And then he goes back to Atlanta with Shanahan. So he definitely teaches that zone scheme. He probably, goes all the way back to freaking what's old boy's name that everybody loved, the offensive line coach that basically invented this shit. Anyway, Alex Gibbs,
the dude from the Patriots.
No, he was with he's been with Shanahan forever. I want to say Alex Gibbs. Anyway, I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter because hopefully this new regime can help both Borum and Jenkins settle into a defined spot. One thing that used to really get under my skin back in the Kyle Long days was the constant moving of offensive linemen. Long was a left guard and then he was a right guard and then you had Stitton moving and you had just constantly moving pieces and guys could never settle in.
Is that not the same thing they did to James Daniels and Cody Whitehair for the first few years either?
Sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Like Ryan Pace drafted linemen and placed linemen who were versatile, but because of that, they placed them wherever they needed a guy. And it was,
well, I think Whitehair kind of fell into the center role out of emergency his rookie year.
Right. And then
he stuck. He stuck.
He couldn't snap out a shotgun.
That is his big downfall, and I will back you up on that 100%. He cannot snap the ball.
But he's a nasty guy. He's a rogue. He's gonna open up.
Yeah, he's not bad. No, he's a fine guard. And then Daniels, is a better center probably, but couldn't anchor, was too small, just wasn't working. So they had to move Whitehair back. So yeah, I'm not saying I'm backing, what happened with those two. They definitely needed to figure it out. If James Daniels should have been a center and they should have kept him at center and worked with him until he was ready for that role, instead of being like, okay, you can just hang out at guard. No, you can't just hang out at a position and then all of a sudden switch it up. Oh, okay, Thomas Graham, you played nickel. Why don't you just hang out outside until we're ready for you to go back to nickel? No, fucking A, don't work that way. Hopefully they find a right guard in the draft, or they find a left tackle in the draft, and Borum can be right guard. But I want them to get it figured out and not monkey around with it all season, because that's just not going to build continuity.
This is kind of what I trust Poles and Cunningham to do. I trust their evaluation. This is their specialty. They should get this right. So I think it'll be refreshing to see everyone find a home, be in the right place. And like you said, Chris, it's April 19th. This is probably the first week of OTAs, which are voluntary at this point. So we'll see what happens with the draft first and foremost before we can even speculate about who's playing where. I don't know.
What kind of attendance do we have for the voluntary workouts, Joe? Does
according to
just pretty good.
Justin Fields said that he thought everybody at the offense was there.
I don't think I think it was like Bojack and Roquan weren't there.
Yeah, no, Bojack was definitely not there because Eberflus was asked about him. But Fields was the only one specifically asked about attendance because Eberflus brushed it off very professionally. But Fields said everybody on the offense was there and only a couple guys on defense. So what Luke just said matches up with that. But Bojack was definitely not in attendance because Flus used that question to kind of brush off the attendance question. He said, "Oh, I'm not really concerned about anybody who's not here yet. We have a plan. Everybody's been in good communication with the organization, so we feel good about where they're at." I don't know if that's like the truth or if it's just up with the media, but I think the attendance was pretty good. Let me ask you about that, Chris.
Good.
What do you make of Eddie Jackson not being in attendance? Really high paid player. It's important, in my opinion, for him to bounce back on the Bears defense this year.
Not only that, Joe, I think it's important for him to be a leader by example. Show up, even if you aren't, making plays or whatever, be in there, learn the defense, learn how to hustle. If you want try hard guys and you're not even trying to show up for OTAs, that's probably not a good look for you. But hopefully it's not that big of a deal. Roquan, I can kind of see because I'm guessing he
wants his money.
He wants his money. He wants his bag,
and he deserves it.
I don't have a problem with that. So get your bag, Roquan. I'm guessing the money continues to flow in from the TV deals. So go ahead and give that man $18 to $20 million, whatever. I don't want to lose Roquan, but it could happen, I suppose. This roster teardown is happening.
I wonder how easy it is to even be running the OTAs this week, considering where we are with the roster. Even if we're saying we've only got 50 guys on the roster, I know we're going to get up to 90 here before fall camp, and then get back down to about 50 or so. But I'm just curious to kind of what the approach is to OTAs and how you install, because you're basically starting from scratch. You're installing an offense and a defense from scratch. So what I heard today was good, but I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of OTAs kind of unfold.
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be hard to install with only half your guys there. Not half, but, most of your starters are probably there and learning. Most of your key backups are probably there and learning. Hopefully your special teams guys are there and learning from their new special teams coach. So, the only guys that are going to be in there will be rookies, and they'll have their very own special camp to teach them everything they need to know about the offensive, defense, and identity of this team, which hopefully we actually have one this year.
Hits.
Tits.
No, that's the identity. Hits concept, right?
Chips.
But Joe, going back to your point about this kind of being like, you heard a lot of coach speak today. I definitely agree with that. Like, you definitely hear that, at the beginning, and everything's all fine and dandy. But, the one thing I really like about Eberflus is that he's just embracing this CEO role right away. I am glad to see him, trying to involve himself with the offense, the special teams, the defense, because that's your job as a coach, is to unite the whole team. Like, we didn't bring him here to be our D coordinator. He's going to have his defensive philosophies, and we expect the defense to be good because he is the head coach. But I just think there's something about those CEO head coaches that I think are just really good in the NFL. Like the guys like, the Harbaughs of the world, or, the Belichicks of the world, even though he kind of runs the whole team. Like, there's just something to be said about guys like that. And the culture they build, I think, is just extremely strong, and that's kind of what keeps that's what keeps continuity throughout the years of the players you attract, the players, how your team is played, the whole 9 yards. So I'm very happy to see Eberflus wasting no time, just embracing that role and diving right into it. Christopher is muted right now.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question then, Luke. You talked about how Ryan Poles and would you trust him to get the offensive line right? And we talk about the approach of the previous regime, just drafting or picking linemen who are versatile. Do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's better to have we're just going to get a guy to plug and play? Or do you think Ryan Poles being able to say, I'm an offensive lineman, I love offensive linemen, this is my archetype for tackle, this is my archetype for a guard, this is my archetype for a center, being able to say these guys are be able to pick it out, this is where this guy can play, that's why I want him. I think that's going to be so refreshing to have an actual offensive lineman be able to say, pick these guys out and construct a wall of protection for Justin Fields.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited for that. We saw him have some hits early in Kansas City on the line. The past few years, obviously there's a whole bunch of people that are making decisions, but over the years, Ryan Poles has been there. The Chiefs line has normally been pretty good at drafting linemen and been very strong at bringing new guys in. So, yeah, it'll be refreshing to see. And, we talk about the versatility. Obviously, it's important to be versatile. It's more so just implementing, you want guys to have a set home. You don't want them to be like, it's good to have them if you're in a pinch and you really need, someone to slide from tackle to guard or whatever, but scrambling them all the time, like you said, is just not good. So yeah, I think it's important for him to kind of have his prototypes and know what he wants at lineman. And this first draft will be very telling, I think. And the draft is 9 days away now. It's coming right up on our doorstep. Chris, what were you going to say? You were on mute there for a second. You were talking, but I couldn't hear you.
That's because I was on mute.
Well, I know, but you were saying something. You were just messing with me.
God knows, man. Something about the offensive line and the way the archetype or architect Joe was talking about, and they have had success in kind of identifying some upper echelon talent in lower areas of acquisition, whether that be through the second and third wave of free agency or through the draft in various spots. So I think that we'll see some offensive line addressed in this draft. We'll also see, what I'm hoping is that, some of the defensive needs are areas of value that they can find. I know this isn't a huge deep draft for a defensive tackle, but it is for corner, right? So maybe they can find a later round corner or safety to come in and fill some of the holes that they have. Or at linebacker, we still need to see Caleb Johnson is currently the strong side linebacker. So is he going to be the guy? We saw Hunter Hillenmeyer play that role for years, and I like Caleb Johnson. I think he's going to be a fine player. I don't know if he's ready to step into a full-time role or not yet, but we'll see. We still have Vildor listed as the right side cornerback. I think that's definitely going to be addressed in the early rounds, whether that's second or third. But
I want the Auburn boy.
There's some holes to fill for sure. I think we talked about that. We trading back almost seems inevitable, but no guarantees. Hopefully they can find some value throughout this draft and continue in free agency. I mean, we still have another wave of free agency after the draft, so I'm not overly concerned. There's still some fine players out there that'll fill some holes.
Can I also go back for you, Krogman, as you're talking about holes to fill? Where does Thomas Graham fit into this defense? You touched on him earlier. We're circling back. Like, he played really well towards the back half of the year, in my opinion. Now, granted, not as high stakes, but he played really well in the back half of the year. Do we see him fitting into the defensive backfield?
He has to. I mean, he earned his opportunity to show out, and I think he seemed to hustle a lot too on the.
He wants it every play. He's not a playoff guy.
He's a very try-hard guy, which I think fits into what they're looking for. So I think he's definitely fitting into this defensive backfield.
I saw something. This is just a pure rumor. I don't even know who put it out. I saw it on Twitter though, and someone had hinted that he does not practice how he plays, and that's why it took him so long to catch on last year.
It's our favorite. It's our favorite former director of college football scouting for the Chicago Bears that said that shit.
I still think he's. I know people don't like him. I think he's at least a decent source of information.
Potentially.
I don't always agree with what he says. Yeah, Greg. I'm pretty sure Greg said it. I agree with what Chris said. I know people don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but I think at least his sources of information are probably pretty solid just from his experience. So, I mean,
what do you mean I said? I said he was everybody's favorite former director of college football scouting for the Chicago Bears.
I'm just saying, I can't, I can't say for sure that's what it is, but it's definitely a possibility that that's why it took him so long to catch on. Who knows? But regardless,
obviously the former regime did a wonderful job in identifying talent from practice.
Yeah.
And they never, stumbled upon some talent just because they were forced into it by injury. That didn't happen.
That's true. They refused to play. They refused to play Thomas Graham for the longest time. Regardless, I don't care how he practices if he shows up and plays like that. But obviously, Eberflus will have a different opinion on that. We'll see, though. I mean, the guy they signed, Tavin Young from the Ravens has had, an injury history. So, just relying on a guy like that they signed him for, pennies on the dollar. So, even if he's maybe the starter or there's a competition, you can get some, you could throw Thomas Graham out there, see if he could play outside. He played outside in college, I'm pretty sure, and he was fine there. I think he just projects more of as a slot in the NFL, but I think the most talented players will find their way in the field in this defense, which I'm excited for. So who knows? I don't know. I think Eberflus is probably waiting to just see how this, and polls are waiting to see how this draft board falls out because it's so unpredictable. Like you said, Joe, there's a whole wave of veterans out there that still can be signed in free agency.
Is not Nakeem Hicks still a free agent?
There's plenty of free agents still. So, like you said, they need to fill out 40 more roster spots and they have 6 picks. So they're going to see where their top picks land and what their depth chart is looking like after that. And then they can fill in the rest later.
Well, if a corner, I thought
I would say, if a corner doesn't fall to them, I don't think they're going to just reach for a corner to say, oh, we need to plug this guy in. They have so many holes to fill, they can just take the best player at those positions and then fill. Honestly, I would probably rather them invest 5 of those 6 picks in offense at least, or all of them. I don't care. Plug and play some veterans on there in defense for now.
Well, don't you think that even with our limited experience with Ryan Poles, this may be a completely biased statement for me, but I feel like he understands value more than our previous regime. Do you agree or disagree? I mean, I know it's a little too early to tell, but it just seems like he understands the value of the game and the nuances of roster management a little more than the prior regime.
I think we're going to see a lot more sports science and analytics brought into that part of the business in terms of roster construction. And what the analytics say as far as where to invest your capital. So there's been a lot of recent trends that point towards offensive line, but it's obviously not been the case so far with this team. But if you come out and see, a second round pick, a third round pick invested in the offensive line, then that's obviously, pointing to them finding it important. If you see, your later round draft picks being safeties and full or running backs and things like that aren't necessarily.
Ryan Pace did that all the time.
Right.
I don't feel like Pace, or excuse me, Poles. I don't feel like Poles has given us the indication that he's going to get stuck on a prospect and say, "Oh crap, that prospect is 2 or 3 picks away. I got to trade up to get him." I feel like he's maybe it's just in it. We don't know yet because and my hope, but I feel like he'll say, okay, we don't need to trade up for X or Y or Z. We know the board. We know value will fall to us. It's going to be okay. We don't need to sacrifice ourselves to go get a specific guy.
Yeah. Or did, Pace just want that raw talent and not really concern himself with how well his coaching staff could coach a player up. Did he just want that raw Anthony Miller, which I don't understand. That doesn't really make sense, but either way, I hope what you're saying is right, Joe, and that they don't, reach for guys and trade away a lot of future assets in order to get, their guy. You have to be somewhat fluid unless you're getting to the absolute bottom of your tier, and there's only so many guys left on that tier. You're coming to the end of your second round grades and you're in the third round and there's a guy, there's a guy at, I don't know, mid 60s and you got to move from 71 to 66 or whatever to get a guy that you valued at 40, 45 to jump up and take him. I get it, but that's value to me, is finding those full round up type grades in the later rounds, and that's when you move. I can't imagine you saw a first round grade out of Anthony Miller or a number 2 overall grade out of Mitch Trubisky.
That daggum old car he had, of course.
He might have seen it in Tevin Jenkins, who knows? But regardless, yeah, that's a valid point. Just from what we've heard, I feel like, we're going to see a lot of trade backs. I don't think we'll see any trade ups in this draft. And like I said, the Bears just have so many holes. They could stay put with every pick and get a good prospect for what they need. They're not in a position where they need, one guy is going to put them over the top, but a collection of, good linemen or a collection of good corners or whatever can definitely get them on the right track. So, we'll see. Draft season is fun, and we're finally coming to an end of it, and we can see what's going to happen. I mean, there's so much speculation about what's going to go on, what the Bears are going to do. None of us really know until 9 days from now, or I guess 10 days from now, because the Bears will have 2 picks then. So,
Luke, do you want to preview what we kind of got in store for next week, since we're wrapping up a little draft talk, kind of forwards thinking? Didn't you have an idea for next week?
Oh, we're doing a mock draft, dude. We have to. Just a Bears mock draft. And what did we do? We did a full one last year, right, Joe? We did the full first round, I think, with Usaid. Usaid was on.
Yeah,
the full first round. We're just doing Bears, so we'll do all 6 picks or whatever we come up with. We could even do our first version of our mock draft tonight if you guys would like.
Let's talk about our kind of ancillary topic, and we'll circle back to that. How about it, Luke? We want to bring up an article that's kind of been circulating around Chicago Bears, Twitter, and just kind of really just sports media in general. You can go to SI.com and read our friend Connor Orr. He's got an article out there entitled "Justin Fields is Why the NFL Needs a Transfer Portal." His secondary headline: the second-year quarterback would be much more justified asking for a trade, and it might actually benefit the Bears too. Oh, so this is caught Bears Twitter by storm. We'll just throw it out there. Could Justin Fields be allowed to ask the NFLPA for a different assignment? I believe that was kind of the original way that it was framed. Go ask for a new assignment. And then it kind of reframed it, if I'm correct, reframed it to, he can ask for a trade, this, that, and the other. I just throw it off to you, Luke. Go ahead and get started. What do you think about, should Justin Fields be allowed to ask for a trade and or a new assignment in the NFL?
I mean, anyone could ask for a trade. Anyone's entitled to that. But a transfer portal? Come on now. That's a bit ridiculous. And my rebuttal to that is, how would any bad team ever become good? Nobody. You really think anybody grows up dreaming to play for the freaking Lions or the Jaguars, or people might dream about playing for the Bears because they're a historic franchise, but nobody dreams about that. But once you get in the league, you're getting paid millions of dollars to play a sport you love. You don't care, especially if you're a competitive person. What kind of idea is that? I mean, there's been people who've ducked the draft for a year, right, to not go to a certain team. Like that's a thing. Okay, players can do that if they want, but they're just putting their own career at risk. It's just, to be honest with you, I think a lot of times the Bears fan base is so loyal and so large. They're easy to pick on because it's like, if you put something like that out there, it's gonna get a lot of traffic for sure. Yeah, and like I said, Fields, he could ask for a trade if he wanted, but I mean, he had a bad coach last year and the coach is gone. Why would he be upset about that? And most of the teams that are worth a damn already have a good quarterback. Like,
Groban, you care to respond?
Of course. I mean, how did the Bengals get from being the Bengals to, going to the Super Bowl? They took Joe Burrow, number 1 overall, 2 years ago, and they're in the Super Bowl. And, yeah, they surrounded him with a lot of talent. I get that. The Bears didn't have a lot of opportunity to surround Justin Fields with a lot of talent yet. Transfer portal is just a terrible way to frame this, what they're talking about. It doesn't really talk about, what is this equal in compensation for the Bears? He goes on later to say, trading the Bears away would put this rebuild into hyperdrive. It's like, okay, cool. What are you saying? That's not the same thing, as a transfer portal. It's like transfer portal in NCAA is basically like you enter yourself in the transfer portal and you can almost choose your school or whatever. Like Justin Fields can't just go in and be like, okay, hey, I want to go play for the Carolina Panthers, who honestly are in no better of a situation. They might have a better weapon in DJ Moore, but not really.
He can go home to Atlanta.
Great.
I guess.
That's awesome.
Play for that crap franchise if you
cool,
want.
Yeah, because Matt Ryan did so well, and he's a former MVP candidate. So I think Matt Ryan, he can overcome his roster construction, which Connor mentions in his article. Also mentions Russell Wilson wasn't able to overcome a bad roster, even with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So how long is this going to take? Are the Bears just going to, give Fields a one shot like the Browns did for Baker Mayfield? Well, at the end of the day, Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus didn't draft Justin Fields. We're not saying they don't like him. We're not saying that he's not a talented quarterback that could be the answer in Chicago. But you have to give a new regime time to construct what they want in their team. And when Justin Fields fits into that, then he fits into it. And if that's not next year, because they have to fix a lot of the previous regime's issues, then it's not on Justin Fields to just go and uproot everything and say, well, I don't like it, I'm going to go play somewhere else. This is the problem with America in general, honestly. You're under contract. You signed a contract. That means you are tied to your team
for millions of dollars.
You don't get to just throw a hissy fit and go somewhere else and make millions of dollars because you don't like the situation you're in. And, whatever, dude. We've seen this before with Eli Manning, and it worked out for him. So that just bolsters the whole shebang. But you know what? The Chargers got a boatload for Eli Manning. They got basically 3 first-rounders, and one was Hall of Famer probable Phillip Rivers, along with 2 more. So, if you want to just dump me with shit tons of picks because, the NFL wants to, they're talking about how it would force bad teams to get better quicker. No, it wouldn't. It would just
teams aren't. They're saying that the teams are bad on purpose, as if the Bears just love losing.
Tanking? Who determines who's trying hard? I mean, obviously you can see some teams here and there, but if you're an objective Bears observer, which I'd like to think the 3 of us are, we're trying to get better. We just got a long way to go. We're trying to get better. We just got a lot of crap to clean up. We are trying to go in the right direction. There's just a lot of dadgum baggage left from the old regime. So it determines what the right thing to do is with that baggage.
One of the things he talked about and brought up is that, a capologist, which are my favorite fucking analyzers on the planet, called it a complete teardown. And they reference an article basically talking about how Brian Flores was saying, Stephen Ross was trying to pay him to lose, pay him $100,000 per loss or whatever, start bad players, intentionally tank. So they referenced that article. I didn't read through that whole article because I ain't got that kind of time. But that's kind of their shaky foundation for this, teams tanking, quote unquote. But hey, our boy Lucas is a big 76ers fan, and he knows all about tanking for number one picks, and you got to trust the process. So trust the polls process. Don't worry about it. And Connor Orr, I get where you're coming from, man. I kind of understand the article.
Easy clicks.
It is. It's easy clicks. Is picking on a big ass fan base. It got a lot of people's hearts pumping and stirred up a lot of shit, but it's not it, bud. It's just not it.
We've seen this time and time again with people just picking on the Bears. Like it's an easy target and people get pissed.
It's a lock and Forna special, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb because it almost just makes me feel like nobody could actually think. Like, just if you want traded in the NFL, you can get traded fairly easily. We've seen players do it. They just hold out until they get their way. But the only way teams do that is if you go out there and you show that you're worth trading for assets. Like Deshaun Watson got his way. He hasn't even played in 2 years, and they got a fucking Brinks truck for him because he played well. Like, so there's no incentive for these players not to try harder or for these teams to tank. It doesn't make any sense for anyone involved.
I mean, they're trying to make comparisons like the Bears aren't trying to build. And like the comparisons he has are just fucking ridiculous because he says the Jets tried to trade for Tyreek Hill to, help build around that junior high kid that they have up there. And like their cap situation is completely different. He talks about how the Jaguars spent a comical amount of money pacifying Trevor Lawrence. But he makes a side comment that who knows if it was money well spent or not. It's like, okay, what's really different here in what the Jaguars did? So you spent a bunch of money on a bunch of rejects that nobody else wanted, and you gave them far too much freaking money just to say you did something to surround the guy with something. Okay, good for you. Like, if in it might take a little while, but I'm hopeful that Poles and Eberflus are staying in communication with Fields, letting him know, hey man, this is our plan. We were kind of left a little strapped for assets. We're glad to have you here. We some of the assets that we lost were because we got you. So
he addressed that a little bit today, actually. He said that because they asked him, he asked Justin Fields if he's being kept in the loop from Ryan Poles on weapons and personnel moves and this, that, and the other. And he said he really wasn't getting that from Ryan Poles, but really what he was getting that was from Luke Getsy. This is why we brought in this guy. This is why we brought in that guy. And this is our thought process going forward. So it is great to hear that he's being kind of clued in the loop, but it's via Luke Getsy kind of down the train, which makes sense. That's his next direct superior. I like that.
So did they expand at all on Byron Pringle and the tight ends?
No. He basically just was, like I said, he's a daggum pro. He didn't say crap about anybody.
SEC raised. He knows how to handle it. He knows how to handle the media.
Yes. Like
you folk down there, Joe.
We try to grill them and catch them in lies, and they learn early.
Yeah, the overall point is, I feel like every now and then teams have to press a rebuild button. Like, it's inevitable. But if you're talking about tanking, you're talking about multiple years of sabotaging your team doing this. Like, it's just not. Poles came in such a mess. I don't really I didn't even read this article because I didn't want to pay it any mind. Did he even propose what he would have done to make the Bears better? That's my rebuttal to him. What are you doing to make the Bears better there, Mr. GM, Sports Illustrated writer? Or do you not even know? Because if he's telling us to replicate the Jags offseason, well then, then put Trevor Lawrence in the transfer portal too. Like, what?
And the funny thing is like, all of this fire comes at the beginning, and then he throws a little water on his own fire, and he's saying, we're not pointing the finger at Poles. He had no choice. Bears decision makers tried to use Fields as a shield with which to avoid seemingly inevitable regime change. It didn't work. Fields cost draft capital. Short-term roster management created an untenable situation. So Poles is doing what any smart GM would do. He's not throwing around irresponsible money. He's not sacrificing future draft capital. He's trading away players like Khalil Mack to get more capital.
So it's a huge contradiction.
Yeah, but then he says trading Fields would be a way to accelerate the rebuild. It's like, yeah, maybe, but then what? Like, you have a guy that is obviously a tradable asset, but now
if he is that tradable, then you'd want to keep him.
Right. It's ding, ding, ding. Yeah. He doesn't have a whole lot of answers.
It's time to start getting people who work in the football industry to be making these types of articles than these people who sit on their couch all day reading PFF and stupid articles online about what teams are doing. I'll tell you what, Connor, go worry about what the Eagles are doing, because Jalen Hurts is a big question mark. He might want to transfer. Fucking idiot. I can't do this.
All right, Luke.
He's got an article on the Deshaun Watson trade, too.
Oh.
It says the Browns will never live down Deshaun Watson trade.
Oh, I agree. The Browns should. I know we're not a Bears. We're a Bears podcast. Okay.
If there was a transfer portal, man, Texans would have got nothing for him. He would have just left.
The Browns should be ashamed of themselves. You got all those question marks surrounding that fella, and you're gonna pay him $200-some million. You're gonna rig next year's salary for $1 million because you know you're not gonna have him. That just shows you that he's shady. I'm not real happy about that, to be honest.
He's got quite a few articles out there on the old SI.com. So
hey, Connor Orr, getting it done, man. Appreciate you. Maybe we can have him on and debate him. We'll see. We'll see, because that would be great. Luke, your question: what should the Bears do if you trade away Fields? What do you do? You still need a quarterback. You still could do it.
I'm sure he would tell us that they would have to do something to just appease Fields, which really wouldn't do anything. It would just create more holes down the line. That's my whole point. It's just like, yeah, you can talk about how the Jags spent all this money, but let's talk in 2 years, and you tell me if that money is money well spent or not.
It wasn't.
No. Christian Kirk, $18 million a year.
And overall, like I said, if Fields wanted out, he could request a trade, and that would be that.
Everybody can ask for him.
Everyone's entitled to it, sure. He's not that type of dude, though. He wouldn't do it, but again, if he was worth trading, then he's probably a guy you want to keep.
100%. Well, Luke, do you want to pull up a draft simulator real quick, and we'll spend the next 8 minutes or so kind of just discussing that 39th pick, 42nd pick with some of the options that are right there?
Yeah, we'll see how the first round goes. We'll just do a one rounder here.
Father Krogman's getting tired. It's okay. We appreciate you.
You're really not wrong. I'm tired.
It's all right. It's all right.
Old. Not like you young whippersnappers.
Can you guys see my screen on there?
Nope.
I cannot, but that's okay. You can discuss who's who, what's what.
All right, here.
Where's where?
Can you guys see that?
No, but that's okay.
You're not doing such a great job with the technology there, young buck.
It says it's right here.
Yeah. You got to share the right screen.
I'm sharing the right one, dude.
He's like, I only have one.
Come on now. You guys can't see that.
Why don't you just tell us what you're looking at?
Yeah, let's see who's available here. All right, so the first round just went through. We have all the looks like all the Bears favorites are on the board here.
Leonard Baum. Already gone.
They got your boy Christian Watson still on the board.
Take him. Done.
He says take him. Done. I think George Pickens is probably on there too somewhere. Yep, he's on there. See, a lot. I
don't need any domestic violence abusers on this team.
A lot of the mock drafts have George Pickens rated very low, so I don't know. I'm kind of having a feeling he's going to be a first-round selection. How do you guys feel about that? I think he's been getting a lot of hype lately, and I have a fear that he's going to go to the Green Bay Packers.
Good. Let them deal with his domestic violence ass. He'll be arrested in 2 years and be out of the league.
My God, Joe.
That's exactly what we want the Packers to draft.
Joe Mixon has.
As long as they don't draft Jameson Williams, George Pickens is a great pick for them. If they draft Jameson Williams, I will probably commit suicide. That's awful.
Well, he won't play for him this year, so they're not. They need someone to play for him this year. They lost Adams. They have Rodgers for
good. Pickens gets out there, clears his ACL again, has a domestic violence issue while he's recovering, out of the league. Perfect. Yeah, I made myself clearly.
Is Tyler Linderbaum there? However you say that.
That's 1A.
No, Linderbaum is not there. He got drafted 24th to the Dallas Cowboys. It was actually a good fit for him. The best players available: Nakobe Dean, linebacker Georgia; Quay Walker, linebacker Georgia. You got Tyler Smith, interior O-line from Tulsa. I know he's a popular name. Sky Moore from Western Michigan. Christian Watson. You got Tariq Woolen, the cornerback. Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan. He is a big left tackle. That's an interesting prospect, actually. I like him a lot. So I guess the real question is, do you guys think, we talked about this last week, with what we saw today at OTAs, do you think Poles takes a lineman in the second round? And what are your odds on that?
65%.
I took it at 210 today, so I am saying 90%.
90% he's taking a lineman.
At least in the second round. I took him for the first pick, so give me that Tyler Smith character.
Tyler Smith would be a good one, or I think Bernard Raymond would be also a good pick. I would say Raymond's more of a traditional tackle, whereas Tyler Smith might project more of as a guard in the NFL, but Smith has more of that mean streak that Ryan Poles would be looking for. He reminds me, he plays a lot like Tevin Jenkins does or did in college. All right, well, let's plug in Tyler Smith there.
I'm hoping Watson's there at 48.
Yeah, he got taken by the Cleveland Browns, but you could take George Pickens there at 48 if you'd like. I know Joe doesn't like him. You could also trade back out of that spot and maybe look at another wide receiver there. Some other players available there at that point. You could go Roger McCreary's the cornerback from Auburn. I know Joe likes him. I was thinking about George Pickens. He was right above him.
George McCaskey likes him as well.
George McCaskey. McCreary's there. I would say the Bears might trade back out of one of these spots, but I mean, I feel like if Pickens is there, they'll take him.
I agree. Take Pickens.
So in our first round this week, we have Pickens and a Tyler Smith combo.
Can we get him if we get him a handler, I'm okay with it. Do we get him somebody who can just kind of hang out with him, a good buddy who can keep his head on straight?
Yeah, his name is Justin Fields.
Okay, Justin, if you can teach him not to beat up women, that's going to be a great start for you.
Did he? I couldn't find anything about that online.
It's high school.
That is a confirmed incident.
It's high school. It's all buried. That's why it was never offered at Alabama. And that's why his Auburn offer was rescinded. He was offered by Auburn, and that kind of came out a little bit. And basically, Auburn withdrew his offer, and so he went to Georgia. Kirby don't care. Give me some ball players.
Yeah, it's not good. If that's all buried and that actually happened, that is a huge red flag. Not really a guy I would like to support on my team, to be honest with you. Especially with all the stuff we've seen coming out about, the Watson stuff, the Mixon stuff. Kind of felt the same way about Mixon coming out. I was just like, it's hard to support a guy like that, to be honest. Really is.
Oh, well, if he comes to – high school, I was an idiot in high school as well. I get that. We can grow and learn.
There's no excuse
I admit
for
I'm
that.
being hard on the kid. I do.
All right.
Regardless, if I am thinking he might go first round with what I've been seeing, we'll see. Like I said, the draft is such a crapshoot. It only takes one team to fall in love with a guy or not fall in love with a guy. So, yeah. We're doing a full mock draft next weekend. So you guys need to come in prepared with your draft strategies. I want to know what the Krogman draft is going to look like. I want to know what the Gaither draft is going to look like.
We're going to trade back into the 7th round over and over and over again.
I want you reading the beast inside and out this week so you know who you like. Dan Brugler's beast.
Joe, was it that fight with that handicap kid that you're talking about?
Excuse me?
For Pickens.
Oh, my God.
Did he get into a fight with a handicapped person as well?
So that's alleged. Like they said he was, but the guy even tweeted out that he wasn't handicapped and that it was all fabricated. But I can't find anything about Pickens and.
Oh, I'm seeing this. Assaulting a mentally handicapped student back in high school. Fighting with a teammate. Apparently, he is not disabled. Okay.
There's quite a few red flags there.
Seems like an angry high schooler. Maybe he was able to channel that into Georgia football and hopefully NFL football.
Apparently, he got into another fight, and his high school coach said it was out of character for him. Said it was shocking to me, disappointing. We
Would that have
talked
been
about it.
Ross Probst as the high school coach?
Something Curvin.
But then he went to Georgia and fought multiple other people. So
He did fight on the field at Georgia, per the interwebs.
Javon Williams, anybody?
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
We'll see. I ultimately we can read these things and make our own judgments, but we are not the ultimate judge of character. And hopefully, whatever is or isn't true, he gets help that he needs if he has these issues. So, ultimately, we can't control what the Bears do. We'll see. I don't know. I like how this draft is shaping up for us, though. I think it's hard to mess up. I really think there's just so many ways the Bears can go. I think it'll be hard to mess up. What do you think, Chris?
I mean, yeah, they can mess it up, but no, I don't think they will.
Can they? Do you think they can royally mess it up though?
Yeah, they can.
I think even if
they can miss on two guys. I mean, even if they take the positions that everybody wants them to take, those could be the wrong guys.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I'm just saying. I think there's enough holes that they can take a position of need and find a good player, no matter where they're drafting.
Totally. No, I think they'll do well. I do think they will do well. I just don't. I'm just not gonna say they can not fuck it up, because they can definitely fuck it up.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
guy with a character issue, somebody with somebody with an injury history, somebody with a work ethic problem. Anything can happen with these guys.
We'll see. Well, hopefully the hits principle reigns through to their draft prospects as well, and the type of guy they're looking for. I think the prophecy is that Christian Watson will be a Bear that we've been talking about for weeks before his combine, and we'll see. My other prophecy for the Bears used to be Trey Lance, so that didn't happen.
That's okay. We got Justin Fields. I think it worked out better. Did you see Trey Lance's big back tattoo today?
No.
So look it up on Instagram. He's got a really nice back piece that he's finished up.
Is it ironic that Deebo Samuel requested a trade after he got the back tattoo?
Maybe so.
Did I tell you guys that though? Last year I had a very weird dream that the Bears drafted Trey Lance, like a literal dream.
Yes.
And ever since then, I was like, that's it. That's the guy the Bears are drafting.
I had a dream that they traded up into the first this year.
Do you know for who?
And drafted Tyler
No.
Linderbaum.
No,
No, they traded up for George Pickens.
they didn't tell me. Traded up for Jamison Williams.
I would die. I mean, we had to wait on him.
Justin Fields would enter the transfer portal waiting for him for his leg to heal.
Trade up for Olave. Justin Fields called him the best deep ball tracker I've ever played with today.
No, but Joe, I'm telling
He
you,
hasn't played with enough people to call that.
I'm just. This is. I report. You decide.
Treylon Burks. I think he's going to fall a little bit. We'll see.
I could live with Treylon Burks for sure.
Didn't you call him like a more expensive David Bell, essentially?
Yeah, he's a bigger David Bell.
Motherfucker, man.
I just know
David Bell in the fourth.
Joe loves him. Joe loves Burks.
He's a monster. He's a high ball catcher. He's a physical receiver. Maybe not the fastest, but
shows up to the combine at 260 pounds.
Neither is Bell.
Kelvin Benjamin.
Hey, you know what? What's his name? Mike Evans wasn't in the best shape in the world when he came out.
Mike Evans is a pretty good comp, especially at college wise. Mike Evans
I think that's my comp for Drake London is Mike Evans. Drake London's a player, man. That kid's gonna be fucking good, I think. Burks is weird. I think the Bears like him because they see probably like Deebo Samuel in him. You can use him out of the backfield or wherever, but we'll see. I mean, I think that's a little bit of a red flag if you are showing up to the combine. Supposedly overweight. I mean, you have 3 months to train for one thing, and that will determine probably where you get drafted. And you show up overweight and then test terribly. Yeah, it's not a great
not a good look. No.
Especially when that's what the Bears are looking for is effort, intensity,
And your class at your position is loaded. Why would you do that to yourself? But you did.
Yeah. We'll see. Again, that's just the rumor that came out, but we'll see. I could definitely see him falling, though. Very much like David Bell, though. The tape is good. It's just, we'll see. He's just not very explosive. Big dude, 230 pounds. 6'3". That's like Alshon Jeffrey. That's probably a good comp for him, Alshon.
Alshon was a lot of fun for about 3 or 4 years. That second contract, not so good, not so much.
Not so much? You sure?
Wasn't it? I mean, he fell off pretty hard. He fell off pretty hard. I mean, he was amazing for a while. I remember that touchdown catch in the corner of the end zone where he's all standing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Well, guys, what else you got tonight? We're an hour into the show. I got nothing. We covered it all, I think.
Bears. Krogman, anything else for you?
Better start studying your beast, dude. Next week it's on. I'm going to learn how to share my screen between now and then.
Beast is on.
The beast is on.
All right, guys. Anybody want to join me? Bears down, Chicago Bears. Make every play clear the way to victory. Bear down, Chicago Bears. Put up a fight with the might so fearlessly. We'll never forget the way you thrilled the nation. With your T formation, bear down, Chicago Bears. And let them know why you're wearing the crown. You're the pride and joy of Illinois, Chicago Bears. Bear down.